Long before borders were drawn, before cities were built, before kings and conquerors came and went, there were people who read the earth like a book, who danced with the stars and whose stories echoed through the rocks of southern Africa. The sun, storytellers, trackers, hunters and survivors. The San people, sometimes called Bushmen, are among the oldest inhabitants of southern Africa. Genetic evidence traces their ancestry back over 100,000 years, making them one of the world's oldest continuous cultures. The San lived as romantic hunter-gatherers in small family clans of about 25 men, women and children. Their diet, a delicate balance of hunted meat and gathered roots, berries and nuts. Men hunted using poison-tipped arrows. The poison, a neurotoxic that does not contaminate the whole animal. The spot where the arrow strikes is cut and thrown away, but the rest of the meat is fit to eat. The effect of the poison is not instantaneous, and the hunters frequently have to track the animals depending on the size of the animal. Some smaller animals like hare might take around 3 hours, while bigger game like giraffe might take a few days. The San also dug pitfalls near the larger rivers where the game came to drink. These pitfalls were cleverly covered with branches, which resulted in the animals walking over the pit and falling in. When catching small animals, traps made of twisted gut or fiber from plants were used. They also employed endurance hunting. They chased after the game for longer periods of time, enough to push the animal to collapse. Women gathered, providing nearly 75% of the food. Their deep knowledge of plants ensured not only sustenance but medicine and survival. Children stayed at home to be watched by those remaining in the camp, but nursing children are carried on these gathering trips. Gender roles are not strictly observed in the San society. Women sometimes assist in the hunt and men sometimes gather. Then came change from the north. At around 2000 BC came Bantu-speaking communities, farmers, herders who brought with them cattle, iron tools and permanent settlement. To the San, who had never claimed the land, this was unfamiliar. At first, some San and Bantu groups coexisted, but tension grew. Land that had once been shared was now being claimed. Cattle destroyed wild grazing ground. Clashes became common, and the San, few in number and without organized army, were often pushed further into marginal lands, the dry edges of Namibia, Botswana and South Africa. The 1600s brought new strangers, this time from across the seas. Dutch settlers arrived at the Cape of Good Hope, later followed by British. The British tried to civilize the San, to make them adapt a more agricultural lifestyle, but were not successful. With them also came a new force, colonialism. Colonial governments saw land as property. Forests became farms, game was hunted for sport, and the San, seen as wild and primitive, became targets. Entire communities were hunted, enslaved or forcibly removed. The San, once free to roam, were pushed into the Kalahari. Their stories and their way of life slowly erased from the map. In the 19th and 20th centuries, the San were not just ignored, they were hunted. Colonial laws allowed settlers to shoot San people, often with no consequences. Licenses were being issued for people to hunt the San, with the last one being reported issued in 1936. They were taken to work as servants or slaves, and rock art was defaced. But the San didn't just disappear. They adapted, they healed, they fought at the face of death and kept their culture alive in songs and stories told around campfires. When Southern African countries gained independence in the 1960s and beyond, many hoped for justice, but for the San, the story didn't change much. New governments prioritized national unity, agriculture and development, often at the expense of the indigenous community. The San was still treated as outsiders, denied access to land and legal rights. In Botswana, some San were forcibly relocated from their ancestral land rich with game for conservation. In Namibia and Southern Africa, they became laborers on farms, their language fading, their tradition struggling to survive. But the San spirit refuses to vanish. Across Southern Africa, San communities are fighting to reclaim their voices through legal battles for land, cultural festivals, language revival programs, and international advocacy. They are now sending their children to school in an effort to raise an educated generation competent to work and live in a modern society. They are storytellers in a new age, sharing their truth with the world. As proud custodians of one of humanity's oldest way of life, to walk with the sun is like to walk with the first footsteps of humanity. Their trail may be worn and forgotten by many, but it is still there, glowing faintly beneath the sand, waiting to be remembered. Like, share, subscribe. See you on the next one.